Hi, everybody. So I'm so glad that you've joined me today live or watching the recording. And we're talking about this is our Wellness Wednesday, free coaching, free group coaching opportunity. So please take advantage going on my link that's in my bio on Instagram, as well as underneath the show notes. You can always sign up, it's free. And you can join live, and then you have an opportunity if you want to ask questions before we have a topic discussion. So today we're going to talk about stress, hormones, and belly fat. So most of clients that come to me, their number one complaint is that they're feeling anxious, that they are having difficulty and challenges with weight loss. And those are usually the top two, is along with sleep, are the main complaints. And I just want to talk about today how hormones are so important and how can we naturally balance our hormones. The reason why hormones are so instrumental is because we can cut our calories, we can do the yo-yo dieting, we can exercise more, and that's generally the recommendation you get from your friends or from the doctor. Eat less, exercise more. And it would be great if that formula worked, but usually as we enter our perimenopausal years and our menopause years, that just doesn't work anymore. Why? Because hormones are actually chemical messengers that speak to your body. So, if we look at what initiates certain hormones, and if we have excess hormones in certain hormones, or we have not enough, it will send those messages of, store fat. And for example, so let's just get into it. So I'm going to pull up my PowerPoint just so I can stay on topic and not get too sidetracked, which is sometimes what I do. So understanding the body's messages and how to restore balance naturally, that's what we're looking at today. So there are things like hormone replacement therapy that can be very helpful. There's certain natural approaches, but what we want to look at today is how can I bring my body into balance holistically, naturally, using resources that are free and using resources that are customized and designed for us and what we're going through. So why we struggle with fatigue, weight, and stress. So, like I said before, it's not just about calories. If it was calories, it would be simple, right? We could just count our calories um, and exercise more, move our body more, and we would just automatically lose weight. But it's about the communication between hormones and minerals and the nervous system. All this comes into the play. So when hormones are out of balance, so either too much of a hormone that's too high, such as cortisol or insulin, and then hormones that are too low, such as estrogen and leptin, your body holds on to fat. And it does that because, remember, our body wants to work with us. It's not, doesn't hate you. It's not working against you. It's actually always looking out for your survival and your best interests. So let's keep that in mind. But the good news, like I said, is we can rebalance naturally by doing some basic things, which I'm going to share with you what to do. So our basic messengers, there's over 800 hormones in the body, but we're just going to talk about 5 today: estrogen, insulin, cortisol, thyroid, and leptin. These are the hormones primarily connected with our metabolism and our ability to release fat. So let's talk about estrogen first. So we think of this as the feminine hormone, the female hormone, although men do have estrogen challenges as well, by having too much estrogen and causing weight gain. So let's just talk about the function of estrogen. We need estrogen. It's primarily made in the ovaries. And then when our ovaries go into retirement in perimenopause, and when we hit menopause, the adrenal glands actually take over and will provide us with estrogen, not at the levels that we had when we were menstruating, but basically the function is regulating our mood, our metabolism, and our fat distribution. And when we have too high estrogen, so sometimes it's too high, or sometimes it's just imbalanced with progesterone. And progesterone and estrogen kind of balance each other out. And sometimes when we don't have enough progesterone, we're what's called estrogen dominant. And when it's too high, we actually have water retention, we have PMS if you're still getting your menstrual cycle, we might have mood swings, and we have stubborn fat, which is what the main topic is today, and anxiety. So what happens if it's too low? I mean, and this is what happens like when the ovaries go into retirement and the adrenals are supposed to take over, but in many cases, our adrenal glands are tanked and we're just at a point where maybe we've had chronic stress for decades and the adrenals are kind of just time they're tired and they're not able to produce the hormones that we need. So again, we're looking at kind of the same symptoms as when it's too high. We have belly fat, we may have hot flashes now, poor sleep and slow metabolism. Estrogen is also very protective of our bones and our heart and our brain. So this is where after menopause sets in, women have higher risks for osteoporosis, heart disease, and Alzheimer's. So this is why we look at our hormones are very protective and we want to support the body's natural ability to provide us with the hormones that we need. So also liver comes into play here. So believe it or not, your liver is the primary organ for fat burning, okay, or primarily the hormone, the organ that's responsible for your ability to lose weight. Why? Because the liver processes all of our hormones, and if it's sluggish and congested with, fatty liver, or it's just overloaded and we're not giving that liver support, it's going to be really hard to detox and it's going to be hard to metabolize those hormones. Insulin. So this is a big one. What is insulin's job? It only has one job. It's to move glucose into the cells for energy. It's produced by the pancreas. And what happens is when we eat carbohydrates, so it doesn't have to just be bad sugars like cupcakes and cake cookies and things of that nature, but it also is bread and even healthy carbohydrates like potatoes and anything that's going to provide a lot of carbohydrates. So we have these carbohydrates, we eat them. Now we have a bunch of sugar in the blood, and insulin is then released by the pancreas, and its job is to shuttle that sugar into cells. So keeping in mind that sugar cannot just enter the cell without the key, and the key is insulin. So insulin unlocks that cell where it can push in the sugar, okay? Now, what happens is these cells do get filled up. So it's like a hotel that is just, doesn't have any more rooms and it's sold out. So now the cell closes up and says no more customers. And the body is still left with excess carbohydrates. If somebody's eating a lot of sugar and a high carbohydrate diet, what I'll call is the SAD diet, standard American diet consists of a lot of carbohydrates. So what happens now? It's floating around the blood, it's causing inflammation and causing problems. The insulin then instructs to store as fat. So it's going to be shoved into fat cells. So in the presence of insulin, it is impossible to lose fat. So this is where the counting of calories is really not the right approach, because we can make our calories very low and just eat a very high carbohydrate diet, and therefore we're going to have a lot of insulin on board. So when you get your blood work done, you can request, instead of just getting your glucose, which is on a normal cardiometabolic panel, is you can ask your doctor to include insulin as a marker, as well as A1C. So A1C is a snapshot of your blood sugar from the last 3 months. And this is how we determine if somebody is pre-diabetic or diabetic. A favorable number for A1C is going to be, somewhere like a 5 to a 5.4. As we start getting up in the fives, we're starting to approach pre-diabetes. And if we're over 6.3, we are already a type 2 diabetic. So that'll give us the answer that our blood sugar is out of not regulated or balanced. And then along with that insulin number, optimally, we're going to be somewhere between 4 and 6. So when I worked in with weight loss patients at the wellness center, we would do a insulin marker, and we'd also test leptin, and we'd also test another hormone called adiponectin. And the reason why we did that is because we wanted to see if that person was suffering with metabolic syndrome. So usually they were complaining like, I'm doing all the things, I can't lose the weight. I don't understand what's going on. My body's not working. So then when we would receive information about their insulin level, which is a fat storage hormone, and then adiponectin, which is a fat burning hormone, and their glucose and their A1C, we can see a fuller picture and say, okay, well, yep, you're not pre-diabetic and you're not diabetic, but your insulin is at a 25. Now, remember, I just said the optimal numbers is going to be somewhere between, I mean, 3 is getting a little bit low, but let's just say 4 and 6 would be a great range. But most of these women that were struggling with weight loss were not pre-diabetic, were not diabetic, but had very high insulin levels. So what does that mean? Yeah, you're going to struggle with weight loss because you need to get that insulin lowered. How can we do that naturally? Well, if we cut the carbohydrates, okay, now that doesn't mean you can't eat any carbohydrates. That means cut the processed food, okay? The breads, the pastas, the cookies, the brownies, those extra calories that aren't giving you any nutritional benefit, and all they're doing is spiking your blood sugar. So that's an approach that we can use. So that doesn't mean cutting your calories. That means changing your food profile to prioritize things like protein and good fat, and then sprinkling in whole food as well for coming from carbohydrates such as sweet potatoes or squashes or berries, or I'm a big fan of coconut water. So I know that that might be higher in sugar, but it's natural and there's a lot of potassium provided in coconut water. So if you're not eating all that other stuff, it's fine to eat whole food carbohydrates. Of course, if you're a type 2 diabetic, there are some other parameters that, maybe there is going to be a time where you really have to even cut those whole food carbs for a bit to get your body reversing that type 2 diabetes. So just so you also are aware, I would have clients say to me after reviewing their blood work and identifying this metabolic syndrome with too high insulin, they would say, well, why don't I have type 2 diabetes? And my answer was always, well, you will if you continue on this path. Things don't happen overnight. We do not get sick or we do not get diagnosis like all of a sudden. This can take up to 10 years to actually manifest in a diagnosis. So preventative care is what we're looking for. We're looking to keep the body healthy so that we don't have the prediabetes or the diabetes, for example. So what happens when the insulin's too high and elevated? Well, we're going to have number one, a very difficult time if it's almost impossible to lose weight with too high insulin. We're going to have belly fat. We're going to have cravings. We're going to have fatigue because of that imbalance with the blood sugar. Now, what if it's too low? I mean, in some cases, it's more rare, but we see hyperglycemia where the insulin's too low, and obviously in a type 1 diabetic, that's the case because the pancreas cannot produce the insulin. But too low would be dizziness, fatigue, stress on the adrenals. And keeping in mind, let's talk about minerals. So we just talked about cutting carbohydrates and all those processed sugars that are harming our health and keeping that insulin imbalanced and too high. But minerals are directly connected to this because magnesium deficiency is also directly connected to blood sugar. So without magnesium, we can have problems with type 2 diabetes as well as hypoglycemia. So this is where the foundation of making sure that your minerals are optimal and working for you is really important. So when I do hair tissue mineral analysis as on clients, and we can see where the deficiencies are and the imbalances. So it doesn't mean the more the better, right? Like we kind of thought that with, say, zinc, during COVID, it was a very big recommendation. And zinc is a phenomenal mineral. and it helps us with viral infections and keeping us healthy, and is needed for many enzymic processes in the body. But too much is going to throw off other things. It's like a balancing act, right? So that's where the hair tissue mineral analysis comes in for, very personalized, very customized recommendations so that you can be doing what's correct for your body. So cortisol. So what is cortisol? It's a stress hormone, and it's actually an excellent hormone. So sometimes we tend to demonize things like we're like, oh, that damn insulin, or oh wow, cortisol, or you know, certain minerals that can get demonized like copper and copper toxicity. Like these are amazing minerals, amazing hormones, and are needed, but again, in the right amounts and knowing what's going on in your body. So how can cortisol affect the weight loss? So first, cortisol's function is to really give you the ability to handle a stressful situation. So when cortisol is released from the adrenal glands, it keeps us balanced under stress. But the cortisol, our body isn't designed to be swimming in stress hormones 24/7. And that's kind of where the imbalances come in. When your body doesn't have and your cells don't have the ability to negotiate or to analyze a situation. Like, well, you know, Sheila's stressed and there's a lot of cortisol, but she's only worrying about following up with emails and deadlines. So it's not life and death. No, your body doesn't have the ability to distinguish between life and death, running out of a burning building, being chased by a wild animal, or stress coming from relationships or jobs or responsibilities. So, keeping that in mind, the body is going to be protective and shut down metabolic function because the priority is your life. So, again, if your body thinks that you're being chased by a wild animal or running out of a burning building or something, life and death, it's not a time to burn fat. It's a time to actually store and to um, maintain the level of like ability for your body to call upon energy in your body to fight or to run. So when we're in cortisol, we're in high stress and we're not paying attention to our nervous system, then the body, no matter what you do, you can go on a low carb diet, you can do all the walking you want, and you might eat a perfect diet, but the cortisol in excess will prevent you from losing weight because your body is protecting itself. So when cortisol is high, and again, it will be high for a long time before it crashes, but eventually, with chronic stress, those adrenal glands just can't continue to work. Over time, they're going to get fatigued, and then we see really low cortisol. So if you get something like blood work isn't really the best way to read cortisol, although we do use labs where we'll test morning cortisol and kind of have a level that we expect or favor. But the best way to test cortisol is like throughout the day with a swab. Also, the Dutch test, which is a hormone test using urine and saliva, is a really good way because it's really measuring for a 24-hour period of like what's going on. And because cortisol, we want elevated in the morning and we want it lower at night. And sometimes people that are experiencing symptoms like they can't sleep, they have insomnia, they may have it reversed where and they're really tired in the morning. The cortisol may be too low in the morning and really high at night. So measuring that through that type of testing is optimal. And a hair tissue mineral analysis, we can see stress levels in different stages, like acute stress, alarm state of stress, and burnout stress. We can see the adrenal function of being overactive, which would be an indication that that cortisol is really high. And then we see it really depleted, which would indicate the cortisol at that point has been, depleted. So too high is going to cause belly fat, poor sleep, anxiety, thyroid suppression. And too low, you're going to be tired, burnt out, low motivation, low blood pressure. So these are some signs. So I think with this type, with stress in general, and I think we live in a society in a day and age where stress is probably the biggest factor and underlying root cause of most conditions. Certainly, autoimmune diseases are activated by stressful, chronic stress or some kind of acute stressful situation. So how do we manage that? And it is a daily practice, and it's a lot of times the not so sexy thing to do. Like people ask me, well, what supplement can I take? Well, what medication would be good? Because they don't want to do the work. And sometimes this is the hardest part of a wellness journey, is that there's work involved. It doesn't have to be hard though. So things like breath work, grounding. What's grounding? Grounding is like connecting to the earth with your bare feet on the grass and the sand. You can actually touch a tree, you can touch plants. I mean, these are ways of basically charging and aligning your cells. And this is scientific, it's not woo-woo. There's a documentary called Earthing. I would highly recommend you check it out. It's fascinating. This can help with chronic pain. This can help with, again, balancing that nervous system and creating a sense of calm. Also things like meditation, also non-sleep deep rest, NSDR is a specific like guided, not meditation, but a guided journey for, it could be as little as 10 minutes, where it just really sets you into a state of calm, but not exhaustion. It could be something that if you get tired in the middle of the day, take 10 minutes to listen to an NSDR video. You can find them on YouTube. Andrew Huberman is a big promoter of non-sleep deep rest for calming the nervous system. There is an app that you may find beneficial, because sometimes we need the guidance and we need the support. And this is where coaching comes in, right? Because I'm just looking for the app. We don't always do what we know, we do what we're held accountable to, right? So even an app can do that, because it can send you reminders and it makes you think about, oh yeah, it's time to do a 5-minute meditation. And on this app, there's actually like as little as 1 minute. So if you just get in the habit of like every morning before you start your day, before you look at your phone, you're going to give yourself that 1 to 20 minutes of just resetting and setting you up for a great day, clearing your mind. This is scientific. The science shows that we actually think better. There's more brain connections. So we actually get more time. Like a lot of people say, I don't have time for that. I am just so busy. Like I get up and it's like, boom, I'm out of the gate and I have so much to do. But the truth is, the less time that you think you have, the more you need this. So keep that in mind. This is a priority. And sometimes the hardest things, or seem like they're the hardest things to do, is what you need to be doing. So getting comfortable with being uncomfortable and stretching yourself, these are the areas where it's going to be, this is where you're going to grow. It's called the Waking Up app. So the Waking Up app, so you can check that out. And there's others, but just to give you a suggestion. So this is a big one. I feel like stress is one of the primary reasons. Again, of course, we see high insulin and we have estrogen imbalances that cause weight gain and struggles, but cortisol is a big one. And sometimes it's combined with the others. Thyroid is your metabolic system. It's your metabolic thermostat. Okay. It controls metabolism, digestion, energy, temperature. That's pretty important. We need a functional thyroid. Unfortunately, and I don't know if this is a correct estimate, it might be higher, but let's just say 80% of people are walking around with suboptimal thyroid function. So what does that mean? Often my doctor said my thyroid looks great. And when I look at the blood work, and you can go ahead and look at your most recent blood work, maybe you recently in the past year had blood work done from a physical, you'll notice that TSH is the hormone which is actually a pituitary gland hormone, is what they measure thyroid with. Okay. Maybe you have a T4 reading on your blood work. And basically, the doctor is assessing your thyroid function based on your TSH and maybe your T4. That is completely, that is not inclusive of everything you need to look at to fully understand if your thyroid's working. What we need to look at is also free T3. The free T3 is actually your metabolism. So that number gives us what is actually, how much hormone, what is the level of that hormone that is controlling your metabolism, your energy. This is what we want to see. Unfortunately, you have to ask your doctor for it. So free, unless you go to a functional medicine or integrative doctor. So free T3 is uber important. An optimal number would be 3.5 or even above. So the range is from 2 to 4.4. So when you look at a free T3, the lab range is going to be 2 to 4.4. 2.5 is not optimal. It's actually really moving into hypothyroid. So we want that number to at least be over 3, preferably closer to 3.5 or above. So if that's, let's just say that's functioning well, that's your optimal. You just looked at your blood work and you said, wow, my free T3 is 3.5. I'm great. Then we have to look at reverse T3. Reverse T3 is kind of, it puts a stop to the free T3. So what it does is it actually negates free T3, okay? It's actually very protective. So again, your body is designed to protect you. So let's say you just had surgery and you're recovering. Your body will automatically, naturally raise reverse T3 because it's not a time to metabolize, it's a time to heal. So your body wants to bring all the resources to the table to focus on the priority, which is healing. So in that case, reverse T3 may be elevated for a time period and then it'll remain back to normal. We want to see that number under 15. If we see that above, we know that something is blocking our metabolism. And again, one of the reasons is the body isn't healing. Another reason could be heavy metal overload. Another reason could be adrenal fatigue and just too much stress. So there's a lot of moving parts with the thyroid. The other thing that we look at on a hair tissue mineral analysis is the ratio between calcium and potassium. So calcium and potassium are instrumental in the thyroid hormone entering the cell. So again, if you're at a gas station and you sit next to the gas tank and you just sit there all day, is the gas going to get in your car? What you know, it's not. You need to take the nozzle and stick it into your car. So the same with thyroid hormone. If it's in your blood and it's even at an optimal range, but it's not able to get into the cell because you don't have bioavailable calcium or you don't have adequate potassium, it's not going to be able to enter the cell where it needs to do the work. So you actually might have hypothyroid, you have suboptimal thyroid function on a cellular level. So thyroid is very instrumental with weight loss. And again, you're doing all the things. Let's say you're doing all the nervous system work, you feel good, you don't feel anxious, you're sleeping well, you're eating a whole food diet, you don't eat processed carbohydrates and extra calories like that, you're moving your body, you're doing all the things, and you just cannot lose the 15 pounds. That I would say thyroid would get the spotlight there. And again, it may be coming from a mineral balancing standpoint. And also, how do we make thyroid hormone? Well, we need certain minerals. We need selenium, we need zinc, we need iodine. These are all instrumental. When we're deficient in those minerals, the body can't make it, right? So these are things that I look at when I'm working with somebody to ensure that we're really addressing all the underlining and reasons, right? So it's not just eat less, exercise more. So thyroid, like I said, controls metabolism, digestion, energy. And when we have low thyroid function, we have fatigue, we have anxiety, we have weight gain. We have constipation. So you might not know that constipation is directly connected as well to certain deficiencies like magnesium, but also a sluggish thyroid. An overactive thyroid also will cause anxiety, but you might find a more rapid heart rate with an overactive thyroid, and also nutritional depletion because you're just burning too quickly. So again, we need that selenium, zinc, iodine, we need protein, and we need the balancing of calcium to potassium. And there's also some other, there is a supplement over the counter that you don't need a prescription for. It's called T2. And they don't test for T2 on blood work, but it can actually be very supportive of fat loss and can work really well at certain levels. There's a dosage between 100 micrograms to 300 micrograms, not over 300 micrograms. But you can check it out. Look under, Dr. Weston Childs is a expert in thyroid, and he does sell that supplement. And let's move on to leptin. And I'm not talking about leptin tea or Lipton tea. Leptin is actually a fat burning hormone. Um, and the leptin is actually produced by the fat cells, and the fat cells make this hormone to tell your brain when you're full. Okay, so it's like, we're good, we're not hungry anymore, we don't need to eat. But when we have it too high, it's similar to insulin resistance. So when insulin's too high, it's not able to do its job. When it's too high, leptin, we might find that we have constant hunger. We have slow metabolism. When it's too low, the body thinks it's in starvation mode, and we might get tired, and we have low thyroid function. So anyway, how do we fix this? So leptin is really connected to the circadian rhythm. It's so important. This is with all the hormones, making sure we get outside, exposing our eyes to the sun in the morning, preferably at sunrise if you can get out for sunrise, even if it's cloudy and rainy. If you can't get outside, you can open a window because the light will come in. The grounding, and then blocking blue light at night. So this is directly connected to leptin and all the hormones. Also prioritizing sleep and reduce snacking. So instead of grazing through the day, eating those 3 meals and having that time, 4 hours in between the meals, is optimal. So remember, minerals are the spark plugs of life. They're the spark plugs of our body and our hormone production. So things such as low magnesium, zinc, or potassium are going to have equal to poor hormone signaling. High cortisol depletes these minerals, creating a stress fat cycle. Again, we can see low sodium to potassium on a hair test, or low magnesium to sodium to magnesium to sodium, sorry. We can see adrenal function and stress levels. So it's really beneficial to work with the hair tissue mineral analysis as a compass to, what is going on in your body. The other thing I want to point out is toxic elements. So we are living in a world where we're constantly bombarded with toxic elements in our food, in our clothing, in our water, in our environment, our cleaning products and personal care products. So the best, what I talk to my clients about is actually reducing your toxic load, because we can't detox if we're constantly retoxing. So using apps such as Switch Natural, that's the one I use. So you can check that out. There's others out there. But what I like about Switch Natural is you can actually scan your ingredients. So it can scan the ingredients in your cleaning products, your personal care products, your food, and it'll flag anything that's toxic, and it'll actually give you the reason why and what is it causing problems with. Is it causing problems with respiration, with possible carcinogens causing cancer? And you can replace those items with clean products. So we're reducing that toxic load. We're filtering our water. Okay. Because what happens is when we have a lot of toxic elements and we have deficiencies in minerals, those toxic elements will actually take up the spots where the nutritional elements are supposed to be. And now we have a real problem, right? Because now we have a deficiency, and then we have this toxic element that's working as a nutritional element, and it's going to cause a host of health problems and hormonal disruption. So we detox naturally, right? Giving our body what it needs, providing a really high quality binder that I recommend specifically to my clients so that it can help your body go into natural detox by pushing out what it doesn't need and then binding to something and pulling it out of the body. Calm body equals balanced hormones. So remember, parasympathetic and sympathetic are the nervous system. One is sympathetic is fight and flight, parasympathetic is rest and digest. But we do actually want to have both of these nervous systems. We want to be able to go in and out of them, just like wild animals. So we want to feel stress sometimes with exercise, fasting, if appropriate. Sometimes even deadlines can give us that like stress. But then we want to transition into rest and digest very smoothly. What happens is when we get stuck in that sympathetic fight and flight all the time, the body eventually will default to parasympathetic, but that will be that person or you that feels like, I can't get up, I'm so tired, I can't get off the couch, I have no motivation to go out with my friends or to go exercise or to make a meal. So that's when you know you're kind of in that default parasympathetic. If you feel like you can handle stress and then you can kind of do something relaxing and your mind isn't constantly thinking of the stress, you know that you're pretty balanced. So that grounding, slower than normal breathing, breath work, cold exposure, really thinking about gratitude, not just thinking about it, but feeling it. There's a difference between thinking and actually experiencing. So really getting into that feeling of gratitude can help with regulation, nervous system regulation. And just final note, fat loss requires safety, not restriction. So our body doesn't want to be criticized all the time. Like, listen to your self-talk. Are you saying my body doesn't work? You suck. I can't believe it. I never can lose weight. Those messages are sent to the cells and your body will follow. So start changing your language and say, you got this. I know I'm on my way. I know where I'm going and I feel great. And I'm not where I want to be, but I know I'm on my way there. Try giving yourself a high five in the mirror. This is the work of Mel Robbins. So she wrote a whole book about it. Maybe the first thing you do in the morning is go into the bathroom mirror and give yourself a high five because it's actually sending a signal to your brain like, you got this, I got you, and we can do this. And it's just a positive, when we think of a high five, what do you think of? You think of like, attaboy, you got it, let's go. It's a very positive message. So doing that on a daily basis can be really helpful. Getting outside, this light and hormone regulation is no joke, people. This is the thing that moves the needle the most. So I know I've had people say to me, oh yeah, right, whatever. Like they can't be bothered. But we are so far removed from what our bodies need in our modern world. So we have all these modern, um, we have these modern technologies that are helping us live easier and making communication easier and being able to accomplish things. But there's a price to pay, and we have to go back to the basics, and we have to get our eyes exposed to the sun. We have to frequently get outside. We have to open a window. So there's things that you can fit into your life, even if it's not as convenient to get outside. So like I said, open a window on your way to work, when you're driving, open windows or sunroofs so you can expose yourself to that light. And at night, really important, dim lights. Stop eating 3 hours before bed. Wear blue blockers. I have on my link tree links of all the products I recommend, and one of them is a blue blocker glasses. So they're reasonably priced, and it's really a great investment because you're going to wear them every day when the sun goes down, and you watch TV with them, and you check your phone. When you check your phone, you can turn off all the red lighting. I'm sorry, blue lighting. And so you also have your blue blockers on. You're going to find that you're going to sleep so much better. And again, if we're under lights all the time, think about it. If we have our lights on, and we have our TV on and we're looking at our phone, and then your body thinks it's noon. It doesn't realize that it's nighttime and it's time for melatonin to be at its highest level so that we could sleep. So by doing these things, we're regulating our hormones, and melatonin is also connected to leptin. So again, nothing works alone. Minerals don't work alone. Vitamins don't work alone. Hormones don't work alone. So we have to look at this from a holistic perspective and not to get overwhelmed, but just do the basics, the foundational things. Prioritizing protein, cutting out the processed food, getting outside in the morning frequently throughout the day as much as you can. Stop eating, right before bed. And there's some great circadian biology information on caribewellness.com that's for free. So you can check that out and get those free resources. So what are just simple habits that we can start our day with? So mineralized water, you can start your day with filtered water with like some sea salt and maybe some lemon, and to get digestion going, to give yourself some hydration, because the water doesn't hydrate us, but the minerals do. So you need the minerals in order to absorb the water. I'll be talking more about this, but I actually have a hydrogen bottle. So I drink hydrogen infused water. So that in the morning, first thing in the morning, and I set it for an energy frequency. I get light therapy in it, and I get hydrogen infused in the water. So that's really an awesome, we'll talk more about that. And if you have any questions right away about it, just reach out to me and we'll discuss it, because there's a couple different ways you can do that with a water bottle or with tablets. Protein-rich meals, prioritize protein, good quality protein, preferably pasture chicken, grass-fed, grass-finished beef, pastured eggs. And again, sometimes there's other things you can get protein in if you are a vegetarian or you don't like to eat too much meat. There's certain essential amino acids, because that's really what we need, is the amino acids. So sometimes we can take a powdered, drink. We can add amino acids to our water. We can do a high quality whey isolate protein. So there's some ways that I can help you with getting enough protein so that your body can burn that fat. Again, 10 minutes of mindfulness, breath work, meditation, NSDR. Did I say that right? Yeah, non-sleep deep rest. Getting outside, just listening to the birds. I mean, 5 to 10 minutes, start with one, so you can start slow and work your way up. So getting to bed on time, not staying up too late. And again, that might be difficult if you're not blocking the blue light, because you're not going to feel tired. So getting those blue blockers, putting them on to watch TV and watch the screens, dimming the lights in your house. And again, so the light is so important during the day and the dark is important at night. Journal, writing things down like daily, like you could put a quick note about energy. I usually measure like my clients' progress with like, how is their energy? How are their moods? How is their digestion? How is their sleep? So if we see improvements in those areas, we know that we're really moving in the right direction. So just one final note, hormones do not hate you. Your body is not working against you. Hormones are messengers. When you nourish your body with the right minerals, calming your mind and aligning with the light and balancing will naturally happen. So I'll say that again. When you nourish your body with minerals that you need, customized to you, you're calming your mind with good thoughts and nervous system regulation work, and aligning with the sun and blocking the light at night, balance will happen naturally. Thank you so much, and I look forward to seeing you at the next Wellness Wednesday.